Weinberg, and I'm one of the co-directors, along with Yukari Matsuma, right there, who came from California to be here. So thank you, and we have worked together to make this happen. But the judges are the ones that have really made this happen. Could I have the 2025 judge committee stand up and just wave your arm or whatever you want to do, because they have done, yeah. Because they have done an amazing job, because these authors write such wonderful books, and they have spent time. Most of them have full-time jobs, families that they probably don't see very much, and they've spent so much time reading and carefully reviewing these books. So that is an important part of this process. I've been with the award for 10 years. I started when I was 15, and I will say the first year we received 40 books, and then most recently we've received over 600 submissions. So the judges all have reading glasses, I'm sure, and thank you guys so much for all that you have done. And I also want to thank Scholastic and BookBub too, because they have made this event happen. They've been our sponsors, and we're so appreciative. And authors write these books for students, for teens, for younger readers, and we are so fortunate today to have 8 schools from DC, Maryland, and Virginia with us today, and they make the program happen today, and kind of send shivers through your spines thinking about the comments and questions they ask. So I'm going to call out the school names, and so would you, if you're from that school, would you raise your hand or whatever? Elliott Hine Middle School. Alexandria City High School. Okay. Montgomery Blair High School. Theodore Roosevelt High School. Jefferson Academy. Justice High School. Capital City Charter, and Columbia Heights Education Campus, Bell High School. Yeah. And let's give a shout out, thanks to the teachers, the educators, and the librarians who brought these students. This is the day before spring break. So students, you are amazing that you have come today, and we are so appreciative. So thank you. And now I'm going to move the program to Marianne James Daly, who is the Director of Public Service here at the DC MLK Library. And we want to thank you so much for all of your assistance. Marianne is the Director of Public Service. She has done so much with the programming that we have here, social media, you name it, and she's done it. So thank you, Marianne, and we're very appreciative of what you've done, and your staff. Thank you. All right.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to see so much sunshine on a rainy, dreary day. Good morning. So, hi again. My name is Marianne James Daly. I am the Director of Public Services for this beautiful, gorgeous building that we are all sitting and standing in this morning. And I want to say that here at DC Public Library, we deeply value the impact of a good read and how that can make a person, a community, and a world feel whole. And the power of being seen on the covers of the books and in the pages of the books that are on our bookshelves, in our libraries, in our bookstores, in our homes is immeasurable. And that is why, along with our head of our chief of public services, Tiffany Alston, who is also here today, this is why we are happy to host these awards for the last, I think, 3 years is what we've been doing, and we're happy to do that. I hope that today you enjoy hearing from all these amazing authors. And I hope that perhaps some of you will be inspired to share your own stories, to write and publish your own stories someday. So with that, I am here to introduce our moderator for today's event, Ellen O. Ellen is an award-winning author and editor of numerous middle grade and young adult novels, including On the Block, Stories of Home, The Colliding Worlds of Mina Lee, You Are Here, Connecting Flights, and Finding Junie Kim. Ellen is also a founding member of We Need Diverse Books, yay. And she originally is from New York City, but now she lives in Rockville, Maryland with her husband, her 3 human children, her 2 dog children, and you know, this is a little bit of shade here, but I understand, has yet to find a decent bagel. She's still on her quest to find a decent bagel here in DC. I hear ya. It's the water. We can't duplicate the water. So please join me and give a warm welcome to Ellen O.
Good morning. So I am so grateful to see so many new and old faces. Now, when I say old, I don't mean old. I mean like I've seen you a lot, right? Not old. We're all young at heart. But some of you actually live in the area, but we've got people from all over. We've got Yukari came from California, and June came from Canada, right? And Eden came from London. Wait, did Danielle show up? Danielle's not here. Well, Danielle came from London too. She may show up, right? And a lot of people have come by train, by plane. We are so happy that you could all make it to our 10th anniversary of the Walter Awards. And I can't see, sorry. I am old. I also would like to take a moment just to say some thanks. First of all, I want to thank Phoebe A. Not only does she publish our WNDB anthologies, which you all might know, Flying Lessons, The Hero Next Door, On the Block. Not only does she publish our award-winning anthologies, she is the reason that Chris Myers and Mrs. Myers were able to trust WNDB with Walter Dean Myers' legacy by giving us support and trust, and thank you so much for that. It means a lot. Letting them know that we were going to honor his legacy. And I think we did a great job. I hope so. I also want to then thank Danielle Clayton, Kathy Weinberg, and Terry Hong, who were our original WNDB Walter Award team that made this award ceremony possible in the first place. I mean, 10 years of working hard, Kathy. Now the Walter team includes Yukari Matsuyama, who came from California just to be with us today. And also, I want to give a big shout out to Caroline Richmond and Jordan Bookie. And they have worked so hard to make WNDB the success that it is. Also, I'm grateful to Scholastic, BookBub, and the New York Community Trust for supporting the 2025 Walter Award. So please, can we all give them a great big round of applause? Thank you. So I just want to put a shout out to all the students, because I'm going to be honest, every year I come and it's because of the students, you all coming here, that makes this event great. You're my favorite part of this whole ceremony. So thank you for coming. You're here from middle school and high school, and you realize 10 years ago when we first started, you were probably just learning to read or getting to start developing that love for reading. That's why you're my favorites, because you're readers. You're smarter than everyone else too, so don't tell them. You're like my children, my reading children. As we mark the 10th anniversary of this program, we're also here to commemorate the legacy of the award's namesake, the beloved author Walter Dean Myers. Walter passed away in 2014, just as the We Need Diverse Books movement was getting its start. But his spirit lives on, not only in the example that he set as a tireless advocate of diverse literature, but in the written words that he left behind as the author of dozens of books. Please help me welcome his son, Chris Myers, who is himself an award-winning author, illustrator, and fine artist. Now, while he is widely acclaimed for his work and literature for young people, he is also an accomplished fine artist who has lectured and exhibited internationally. So please, let's welcome Chris.
What's up, y'all? How you doing? Pop had a lot of stories. You know, that's kind of his bread and butter. You know, when people ask what genres of books did he make, the answer was all of them. He did poetry books, and he did picture books, and he did sci-fi books, and he did et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, even as he was shuffling off this mortal coil, he was writing me notes saying, well, I got this one more story. Wait, it's one more thing. And one of the things that I love about the Walter Awards is that inasmuch as he could never get out all of the stories that he wanted to tell, he understood that it's everyone else's job to continue that work. And we all support each other in getting out all of the stories that are inside us. This world so often wants to flatten us, wants to make us one-dimensional, wants to flatten the sense of self that we have. But in fact, we are all here a collection of stories. Each and every one of us, you're an anthology. You're a WNDB anthology, right? You are a diversity of stories and of histories and of cultures all within yourself. And the opportunity to share that with each other is a gift. To understand that you are a 15th century Joseon Dynasty Korean kid, right? To understand that you are, you know, shark teeth, and you are all, you know, you are all of the things. You are an atlas in and of yourself. And I wanted to say on behalf of my family and on behalf of the family of people who care about stories, that we are thankful to be part of this continuum, to be part of each other's libraries, and to share this library with you and to build on that library with each other. So I'm excited to see what more stories are going to come in another 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, so this year, Scholastic is reissuing 3 of Walter's novels, Slam, The Glory Field, and Fallen Angels. Each book has a beautiful new cover that was created by graphic artist C.J. Johnson. We'll now watch a brief video that delves into C.J.'s process as an artist.
Hi, I'm C.J. Johnson, a cover artist for the new versions of Walter Dean Myers' Fallen Angels, Slam, and The Glory Field. Basically, what I've gathered from Walter when I was reading his books is that his characters they're flawed. They strive for perfection, but, you know, we all have our strengths and weaknesses. We're not perfect, but, you know, we try every day to at least be the best version that we can. But those flaws, those imperfections, that's what makes us, you know, unique. And I think with my artwork, when you look at it, you know, it's not necessarily very clean lines. Yeah, you know, when you step back and you look at it, okay, yeah, it looks great. But when you start to kind of really zoom in, you start to realize like, oh, okay, you know, there's a couple of nicks here or things that are not necessarily falling in place perfectly, but together it makes one cohesive piece that makes it beautiful. These characters that he would kind of put forth to the viewers and the readers, you could tell that, there was a lot of baggage. It wasn't necessarily just black and white. There's a lot of meaning to it as you started to, peel back the layers. And I felt like putting that into my work, I wanted to not necessarily have people take it as surface level, but to, really see the details. There was a lot of times where I would put little Easter eggs or just certain brush strokes just to kind of give it a little bit more of an authentic feel, just like how he would when he was describing his character. Same thing with my art. The more you look at it, the more you start to see like, oh, wait, I didn't see that last time. It makes you, look at it, a little bit longer and, kind of take it all in. It's almost like different verses on a song where they're all, they're all in tandem in some kind of way. It doesn't necessarily look the same, or it doesn't have to visually, come off a certain way where it seems repetitive. But in this case, we used like some warmer tones to invoke, what type of, feeling. We have like a lot of oranges and yellows. There's a lot of, painterly, brush strokes. I think the fonts are relatively the same, so they feel like a family, but they have their own individual style that makes them unique in their own ways.
Okay, so along with CJ's incredible book covers, each of these newly reissued books also include a new foreword by authors Kwame Alexander, Varian Johnson, or Jason Reynolds. The students in the audience have received all of these books, thanks to a gift from Scholastic. And we will now hear from some of these teens who will participate in a reader's theater, something new this year. I can't think of a better way to kick off our 10th anniversary of the Walter Awards than by hearing Walter's words come alive in our rising generations of readers. First, we'll hear from Elliott Hine Middle School. They will be reading a scene from Walter's novel, The Glory Fields. This book follows one Black family over the course of 2 centuries and is told over multiple generations. Can the student representatives from Elliott Hine join me on stage?
This scene is towards the end of the book. Malcolm has just gotten off the phone with his bandmate Deepak and is cleaning before a potential new bandmate arrives. He has just put the vacuum away when the buzzer for the downstairs door rings. It's Jen. Malcolm buzzes her in.
Can you tell me more about what kind of group you're trying to put together?
I'm trying to put a group that's not set in its ideas. I don't want it to be labeled this or that and then get stuck in that mold so we can't be creative. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, if you're playing grunge, then you're playing grunge. And everybody expects the same kind of thing from you all the time. But I want people with ideas that can change and grow. I have a really cool Indian guy who plays guitar and sitar. I have a Native American who plays bass guitar. Me and the drummer are Black. And I have this piano player from Astoria who can play anything from Coltrane to Mozart.
What's race got to do with music? You want a band of people that look different?
No. What I want to do is be who I am and play from who I am. You know what I mean?
No.
Well, I mean, I want to play from a Black point of view, but as an individual, not like I'm being forced into it. We on the same page yet?
What do you play?
Sax and flute.
Jen lifts her cello and Malcolm thinks she's about to leave when the doorbell rings. It's his Aunt Lavinia, who's around 80 years old, but her posture is as good as ever and her step nearly as firm. She nods at Jen.
She's here to audition for the band.
Oh, I would love to hear you play. I'm Malcolm's great aunt. I heard his group play once and it was interesting. What kind of music do you play?
I play European classical in school. I want to try some other things, but I want to know what the other things are.
I've got a tape. You can take it with you.
Put it on.
I'm not sure how much time my aunt has.
Play the tape.
Jen listens to the tape as she stands in the middle of the floor with her head down, not moving.
Can you play it again?
Malcolm rewinds the tape and pushes play again. Jen listens for a while, then takes her cello and begins playing with the tape. When the tape finishes, she puts the cello away.
When will you let me know if I've made the group?
I have to go away for a week for a family reunion. But if you're interested, we're getting together on the 2nd of September. If you leave your number.
I'll send you a resume. The music was interesting.
Jen leaves, leaving Malcolm with his great aunt.
That was a very confident young woman. Have you met her yet?
No, ma'am, but she can play.
I have to be going soon. Here's the money for tickets for you and your cousin Shep for the reunion. If what I hear about Shep's problems are true, I think you need to be very careful. Young men who take to drink are never reliable.
I'm gonna try to get him down there.
It would be nice to have the whole family there. But remember, as much as we hate to turn away from people, we sometimes have to avoid letting them hold us back. If you're smart enough to accommodate people of all persuasions and bring music from them, you're obviously smart enough to take care of yourself.
After Aunt Lavinia leaves, Malcolm thinks about what he wants to say to her. His cousin doesn't have a drinking problem. He was using crack. What Malcolm wants to tell his aunt is that the reason he can deal with a Chinese cello player is because he was able to find her. But even if Shep were standing in front of him, Malcolm wouldn't have known where to find his cousin.
So now we're going to hear from Columbia Heights Education Campus Bell High School. They will be reading a scene from Walter's novel Slam. This book follows 16-year-old Greg Slam Harris, who can do it all on the basketball court, but who's falling short and struggling at his new school. Can the library ambassadors from Columbia Heights Education Campus Bell's High School come join me on the stage?
In the novel Slam, Greg Slam Harris is fire on the basketball court, but his grades have been slipping. This scene takes place in the middle of the book after Greg's teachers have urged him to work on his grades. Greg and his teammate Jimmy head to the train station together after a game. Greg wonders to himself why Jimmy is walking with him. Usually Jimmy hangs out with the white kids.
The coach said you have an attitude problem.
He told you that?
He wasn't talking to me. I heard him talking to some of the other guys.
What do you think? Do you think I got an attitude problem?
Sometimes you act as if you have a chip on your shoulder. You know what I mean?
What did I do to you?
You didn't do anything to me. I'm just talking about in general. Most of the guys got along fairly well.
What do you think I should do?
I don't think you should jump on your teammates. Just, cool it a little. That's why I told you the coach told Nick to play you one-on-one.
So I could act right?
Just act like you are part of the team.
Greg thinks to himself, we didn't say anything all the way to the subway. I just wanted to get away from Jimmy, just wanted to walk out of his life. What it felt like, too, was going upside his head. But I knew that was what he was talking about, me acting like I had a chip on my shoulder, doing what I could do instead of fitting in like they wanted me to fit. The words had to be there somewhere, the words that would tell him how I felt without catching in my throat or showing how mad I was. What I had to do was to find them, maybe even practice them so that I could lay them on him the next time we met.
See you tomorrow.
Sure.
All right. This is so cool. That was so wonderful. Now, finally, we have Montgomery Blair High School. They will be reading a scene from Walter's novel, Fallen Angels. I love that book. This is a book set in the late 1960s that follows a teen from Harlem named Perry, who volunteers for the military after his dream of going to college falls through. Can the student representatives from Blair High School please join me on the stage?
This scene takes place towards the beginning of the book. Richie Perry is preparing to fight in Vietnam and has just met a fellow soldier, Pee-wee Gates. A sergeant comes in and puts the lights out. Richie and Pee-wee start talking.
Hey, Perry.
What?
What did you do back in the world?
Just got out of school.
You didn't finish either?
I finished high school.
No lie?
No lie.
Then why you come into the army?
Seemed like a good idea at the time.
Richie thinks to himself, my plans, maybe just my dreams really, had been to go to college and to write like James Baldwin. All the other guys in the neighborhood thought I was, going to college, I wasn't. I wanted to walk away from the streets I'd been raised in with my head high, a winner. Mama had said that she'd see to it that Kenny stayed in school if I sent the money for clothes for him. I wasn't saving any money, the way I figured I would when I first got into the Army, but I figured that might come later if I made sergeant.
You like the Army?
It's okay. You get all the stuff. You get all the stuff to go through, and I don't like that. But this is the first place I ever been in my life where I got what everybody else got.
What does that mean?
Back home, when everybody got new sneakers, I didn't get none. Either moms didn't have the money, or she had the money and we didn't get some. We got some other stupid thing like food. When everybody got a bike, I didn't get one because there was no way we could get the money for a bike. But anything anybody got in the Army, I got. You got a gun, I got a gun. You got boots, I got boots. You eat this lousy chip beef on toast. Guess what I eat?
Lousy chip beef on toast.
Richie and Pee-wee played checkers until it was time for chow, the same way they had done the day before. Then they played checkers in the afternoon.
Yo, Perry.
What?
When they gonna get us into this war, man?
We have to get orientated first. I heard that the orientation officer broke his ankle playing basketball.
You ready to get into it? We gotta get into it before it's over.
Richie thinks to himself, I was less nervous than I was when I first got in country. We were at Nam to stop the North Vietnamese from taking over South Vietnam. I didn't really feel gung-ho or anything, but I was ready to do my part.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Montgomery Blair. Okay, so now I get to the part where I introduce our winners this year. I'd first like to welcome Renee Watson, who is our young adult winner. Where's my, okay. When Renee Watson was 7 years old, she wrote a 21-page story, and her teacher told her, I think you're gonna be a writer one day. And she was right. Renee's been writing ever since, poetry, plays, and books. Today, she is a #1 New York Times bestselling author, and her books have sold over 1 million copies, Renee. Many of her books are inspired by her experiences growing up as a Black girl in the Pacific Northwest. Renee, will you join me up here?
Good morning. It is so good to be here. I remember when We Need Diverse Books started. I was at the very first Walter Award ceremony, so this is so special to me. It's also special because of who it's named for. In the book Scorpions, Walter Dean Myers has a character, Kelly, and Kelly says, "It's a hard life sometimes, and the biggest temptation is to let how hard it is be an excuse to weaken." I want to encourage all of us to not give in to the temptation to weaken, to give up, to stop fighting. Please hold on to hope. Hold on to the people who love you, who hold you down. Hold on and be intentional about having joy as an anchor in your life. That is what Black Girl, You Are Atlas is all about. It is about the women who raised me, impacted me, and held me down when I felt overwhelmed. And so when I say do not weaken, I do not mean do not cry. I do not mean do not be angry. I mean feel the pain and fight anyway. I mean feel the sorrow and carry on. I mean hold on. A sign of strength is admitting when we are weary. A sign of strength is leaning on community for support. Young people, find your community, lean on them, be honest about how you're feeling. It's okay to be sad. It is okay to hold sadness and also big dreams and your joys. The character Kelly also says, sometimes when things get hard, we tend to set our sights on what's hard and we turn our back to our strengths. As a community, this theme that we're thinking about this weekend is Many Voices, One World. And no matter what we're facing, I want us to think about not turning our backs on our collective strength, not turning our backs on gathering and holding space for one another and bearing witness to each other. With so much being undone and so much that is being silenced in our world right now, I want us to remember, I want to remind you that what can never be erased is your story, because you carry your story inside of you. So hold on to your story, speak your story, listen to and read stories. It is the thing that reminds us that as a people, we have survived and we will survive. It is the thing that reminds us that we are not alone. I want to thank my team at Kokila, especially Namrata and Jasmine, for bearing witness to my story and taking care of my poems. And of course, to the brilliant and amazing Aqua Holmes for your brilliant collages. It is a deep, deep honor to be making art in this world with you right now. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Renee. That was beautiful. I knew I was going to tear up because whenever Renee talks, it's beautiful. Now I'd like to introduce our young adult winning illustrator this year, Aqua Holmes. Aqua Holmes is the acclaimed best-selling illustrator of several award-winning picture books, including Voice of Freedom, Fannie Lou Hammer Out of Wonder, and The Stuff of Stars. A painter and collage artist, she graduated from the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, and her works have received accolades like the Caldecott Honor, Coretta Scott King Award, and the NAACP Image Award. Aqua, will you join me at the podium, please?
Renee and I met in 2016 when we both received Coretta Scott King Awards. Her award was for a book called Piecing Me Together. As an awardee, I received a copy and read it on the way home. It was as if she had looked inside of my world, as the character and I shared so much: a private school journey, a passion for collage, and a search for identity. I hoped that one day we would do a book project together. Dreams do come true. As you can see by the Post-it notes, this is a treasured volume. Even though Renee and I grew up on different coasts, East and West, different eras, Motown versus hip hop, there is a through line that connects our experiences as Black girls and Black women. There is an overlap in our love for gospel music, our hair stories, and the wise women in our lives. Black Girl, You Are Atlas is the kind of book you carry in your bag just because. The kind of book you give to your granddaughter when she turns 16. A book for a friend going through some things. These are poems that bring the sun into gray days, poems of strength and remembrance and fierce love. I am so happy to have worked on this project and so pleased at the response. It was a joy to see my collages paired with Renee's brilliant words. I never forget the time that Black people were forbidden by law to read or write, that anyone who assisted us in achieving that goal could be severely punished. To be caught with a book could cost you your life. That is no longer true. So now we must write and illustrate more books, buy more books, gift more books, donate more books. We are our ancestors' wildest dream. You are your ancestors' wildest dream. There are so many people to thank, but first and always, thank you to my mother, Florence Holmes, who allowed me to be me, an artist, at a time when that was not popular and wasn't practical. To Aunt Barbara Elam, who took me to the library every week and who was never at a loss to recommend a meaningful book well before diverse books was a thought or a reality. To my family members here today, thank you for making time to celebrate with me. To the team at Kokila who designed such a beautiful book, and to my agent, Ruben Pfeffer. Thank you, Walter Dean Myers, who envisioned a richer landscape of literature for all children, and to We Need Diverse Books for this award. And finally, thank you to Renee. Your willingness to share so deeply about yourself is a gift to the world. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our younger readers' winning author this year, Sherry Winston. Sherry Winston is the author of numerous books for kids. I beat you to the clap. Of numerous books for kids, including Shark Teeth, President of the Whole Fifth Grade, The Sweetest Sound, Jada Sly, Artist and Spy, and the Kayla Chronicles. Her books have also received recognitions like the Kids Indie Next Pick and the Curtis Best Book of the Year. Before Sherry was an author, she was a longtime newspaper writer and columnist. She grew up in Michigan and now lives in Orlando, Florida. Please join us, Sherry.
Good morning. As always, I'm the one who didn't prepare anything. I never do. I want to thank all of the people on the judging committee who thought this book was special. I thought it was special, but I don't know that I believed it until I started to get some recognition. Shark Teeth is a tough story to, I don't want to say it's a tough story to sell, but it's, it's not something that is bright and shiny. You say, oh, it's about this artist. It's a tough story. It's about a 12-year-old girl who is struggling to keep her family together because her mother would rather party than mother. And so she is parentified. And, if you're an adult, I was talking earlier, if you're an adult and you're reading this book, you can feel the dread, that this is going to explode, but you feel her hope, her intensity to make it not explode. I want to give a special thanks to my editor for this book, Alex Borbella, because without her, the book would never have been finished. I had so many meltdowns toward the end of this book. That there was a lot of calming emails that had to be sent, and a lot of digital hand-holding. So thank you so much, Alex, for that. I want to thank Bloomsbury and the editorial director, Sarah Schumann. I promise I know who she is. You've given me so much support and love through my journey of being an author with you, and I truly appreciate it. So thank you very much. And I just want to say that Shark Teeth started as a poem. My children dragged me to some event, Mom, you have to be there. Mom, you have to be there. And I get there and they're not any other moms. And I'm just there, because they need somebody to hold their coat and watch their phone. And I was bored and I don't know, this poem came into my ear and I wrote the poem, and the poem is actually in the book. And then over time, I would go back to the poem and I sort of found the story around it. So I basically built this book around a poem, and I wanted the book to feel like a poem, even though it's not a book in verse. So I thought a lot about the language, I thought a lot about the message, and I thought a lot about you, because I always love to have kids come to me and say, is this a real person? Which they have done a lot for Shark Teeth. Younger children think that she's someone that I know. And that is the best praise that I can get as an author. So I want to thank all of you. I want to thank the Walter Committee, We Need Diverse Books, for being supportive in these uncertain times for literature. So thank you.
That reminds me, we have a lot of editors in the audience, and I just want to say Thank you to all the wonderful editors here. You are unsung heroes. You acquire our books. You support them. You teach us. Phoebe teaches me a lot, let me tell you. So thank you to all the editors. Okay. We'll be hearing from our winners again soon, but before we start, I want to give a quick introduction to our 2025 honorees, Eden and June. Eden Royce is a writer from Charleston, South Carolina, who now lives in England. Her debut novel, Root Magic, fabulous book, was a Walter Dean Myers honor book, an ALA notable children's book, this is the word I knew I'd mess up. Fantasy award winner, and a Nebula Award finalist for outstanding children's literature. She is also a Shirley Jackson Award finalist for her short fiction for adults. Now, June Her is a best-selling and Edgar Award-winning author of YA historicals, including The Silence of Bones, The Forest of Stolen Girls, The Red Palace, and A Crane Among Wolves. I read every single one of those books. They're so good. Born in South Korea, June spent her formative years in the USA, Canada, and South Korea before studying at the University of Toronto. And June resides in Toronto. So, can you all come down? Renee, Ekwa, Sherry, Eden, and June, please join us. Before we start this party, give a big round of applause to our winners. Okay, so I actually have a question that I really want to ask June first, because as Korean American and Korean Canadian, both writing about experiences in the diaspora, how was that for you? Because I know how hard it was for me.
So it's interesting because when I first got the idea to write my first Korean historical, I was like, are there any Korean historical fiction out in the market? And so your book, the Prophecy series, was the first that popped up, and I read it, and it gave me so much. It was like encouragement and courage, and the We Need Diverse movement. So it's like a full circle for me. So that the movement and your book gave me hope that, you know, there was a possible future for my work. So I wrote it, but I was also terrified because I'm like, okay, do I, as a diaspora Korean, have the right to write about my homeland where I was born there, but I wasn't raised there? So I was really scared, but I'm like, okay, I'm sure Korea would never translate my book. So I'm just gonna like hide from the motherland and write about Korean history and hope I'm doing it right. And so with as much respect and as much effort as I could, I researched about Korea. I did the best that I could, but I never knew if I was doing good enough. And so I think with the first book, especially, and the second book as well, there was a lot of fear and insecurity. I'd wake up at night sometimes like with cold sweat and I'd be like, did I get that historical fact right? And I'd like research. And once it was published too, I'd be like, did I get this right? And I'd always be researching. But I think over the years, I've grown a bit kinder to myself because after my second book was published, I called my mom on the phone. She lives in Korea, and I was like crying, and I was like, nothing I write will be like, I will never write like a Korean writing about Korea. And then my mom said, but June, like when second gens speak Korean, they speak with an accent. And so when you write, you will also write with an accent. But accents are beautiful because accents hold stories. And so that just really shifted my paradigm about writing, and that, yes, my books will never be like a Korean raised in Korea, educated in Korea. And it's different, but different is okay.
That's beautiful. That's really, and all her books, all of them have been translated in Korean, right? Yeah, so all her books are published in Korea. All right, so now Eden, I want to talk to you about like your kind of personal experience being, you know, from South Carolina, but living in London and watching what's happening here. What has been your thought process?
Starting with a small question, I see. Listening to the conversation that is going on in London about what's happening in America it puts me in the mind of two different things. I'm hearing people speak about the place where I'm from, a place that I know from inside has problems, has struggles, has not always treated me and my people well. And then hearing someone else on the outside say, this is horrible. And it's not always framed in a way of what's happening in America is horrible. It's sometimes framed as Americans are horrible. And there is a distinction between those things. And the hard part to hear is Americans are horrible, as opposed to what's happening in America is horrible. So when I write, I try to write as authentically about the America that I understand and remember. I believe it was James Baldwin who said there are two Americas. And when I speak to people who are from the UK about where I'm from, they don't have a reference for it. They watch TV, they watch movies. A lot of times those things are set in California. They're set in New York. If they hear anything about the American South, it's Texas or maybe Louisiana. And I say South Carolina, and there's a blankness there. So when I talk about my work, Root Magic, Conjure Island, The Creepening of Dogwood House, all set where I'm from, it's important for me to be able to talk about salt marshes. It's important for me to be able to talk about the Gullah language and Gullah Geechee culture, because they will have a reference for our food. They will know the song Kumbaya, but they won't know that those are Gullah words that they're speaking. And they're using it in a way to say fellowship and friendship. We're not all Kumbaya. But they really don't know that those words are translated as come by here. And it's a way of saying, help us. It's a reaching out to spiritually say, we're struggling, God help us, come by here. And to hear it framed as something other than that is my personal mission to tell everybody that that is absolutely incorrect.
We need some kumbaya now, right now.
Yes, we could absolutely use that right now.
And it makes it clear how important your books are in this particular time of our country's history, which is our next question for all of you. Our theme this year is Many Voices, One World. Where do you see your voice fitting into the publishing landscape, given what's happening now? And I'm staring straight at you, Renee.
Can you say the question one more time?
Where do you see your voice fitting in as we maneuver? Like what's happening now? And our theme is Many Voices, One World. It just feels like there's, we're at odds with our own country right now.
You know, I'm so grateful that I have a past to look back to. I was just saying this before we came out here. There were a people, my ancestors, who were enslaved in this country. And when they were fighting and revolting and pushing back against everything, they didn't have anything to look back to say that their fighting would move us forward. They didn't really have a promise of that. They were doing it really in faith, because there was no proof that fighting for equal rights would actually change laws and get them free and all those things. So I am encouraged because I have them to look back to and to say there have been a people who fought through really hard times and pushed our nation forward. And then there was the pushback, and then more people pushed us forward. And then there was, right? So I feel like I'm a part of that. While I am on this earth, it is my responsibility to carry on and to continue what folks before me did, and then leave it for folks to come along, all the young people in here, that when you are able to, that you push it forward too. And so I see my place in the same place it was even 10 years ago. I'm gonna keep writing. I'm gonna keep making sure Black girls are seen in my books, that big-bodied Black girls are on covers. I'm gonna make sure that I tell the truth about where we're from, that there is struggle, but there also is joy. Like, I just feel committed, as I've always been, to do the work of telling the truth through my writing. So I am sad and angry, but I am also motivated and inspired and encouraged to keep going.
I love that. I would like to answer that question as an artist, which is sort of the foundation of my illustration work. I feel like I have an opportunity to address history through my artwork, and therefore share stories through my canvases about things that have happened in this country that no one knows about. And sometimes those stories can become a book, or sometimes those books become paintings. So I see pretty much my work continuing to support manuscripts, to explore manuscripts visually and support that work, but as an individual artist to also tell stories through my work.
For me, I think, like, when I was first writing my book, I wasn't really thinking about how my work might, impact the publishing world or anything like that. I was just writing it as a girl who grew up ashamed of being Korean, thinking that Korean history might be too foreign and exotic for me, because I was a Jane Austen girl. Like, I was obsessed with British history. I watched all the BBC dramas. British history was my jam. And I studied British history in university. So I grew up ignoring my Korean roots. But when I finally discovered Korean history, like, I fell so madly in love with it. It struck me in a way where studying different histories couldn't really hit that spot. When I was studying Korean history, it was like looking at a mirror and realizing, oh, I'm not this lone island floating around in Canada. Who I am, so much of me takes root in Korea's past. And I think in that moment, I realized there's something about knowing your history that is so powerful, and it's like looking in the mirror and realizing you're not alone. Like, who you are is part of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of legacy, history that is dark, but also a history about people who are resilient. And so there's just something about history that's just so beautiful. And so for me, when I began writing Korean historicals, my hope is that it'll give other, whether you're part of the diaspora or not, but just the encouragement and this passion to study your own roots, because there's something that you gain from learning history that I don't want teen me to miss out on. I did, but I'm hoping that you all won't as well.
For me, as a Gullah Geechee person, it's incredibly important to write about my culture, because even within the United States, there aren't a lot of people that are aware of it. Even among Black Americans, there isn't a great deal of knowledge about the place where I'm from, about the language. There's a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions. When I was growing up, if someone called you Geechee, it was an insult. They were teasing you about your accent and the way that you sounded, because it marked you as someone that was other. And as I got older, I started to embrace the way we sound. Obviously, when I was younger, I was taught the, quote, correct way to speak, the correct way to pronounce things. And when you were home, around family, around friends, you could.
That correct bothers
You could,
me, right?
yes. Oh, absolutely. Imagine air quotes here around correct. So as I got older, I wanted to be able to write that language and write that sound and write that dialect into my work. And with my first book, Root Magic, when it was getting accepted, I got that phone call that they wanted my book, and it was this incredible moment of excitement. And then the editor says, well, I just wanted to say that we don't do dialect in books, especially not middle grade. So we're going to have that changed. We're going to have you change that. And it put me in this place of my dream to have my work published is here, but it's with a caveat of we want it to be a little less authentic. We want it to be a little less hard for people to digest. And
whitewashed?
Absolutely whitewashed. And I know that a lot of people had to go through that, and I was incredibly lucky to have an editor who, after my halting of, I'm not sure I can do that, and because the story doesn't work without it, he went away on his own and did some research on Gullah culture, the Geechee language, the Gullah language, and he came back to me and said, can we get on a call again? And I said, sure. And he said, I want to apologize to you. I should not have said that. I should not have asked you to change your language for my comfort. He said, I did some research on the history of your people, the way you speak, why you speak the way that you do, that you are from people who were kidnapped and enslaved and brought to the United States from various countries in West and West Central Africa. And the reason you have this language is because you were isolated on these islands. And it is something I want you to be able to do, and for you to be able to choose how you want to portray that language. And he said, I will help you edit this book for content, for pacing, for plot, but I will leave the language to you.
Respect. Jerry, your last.
I was hoping she'd forget me. Where I see my place in this shifting landscape of children's literature is to continue. Well, I see my place as being responsible for continuing to promote hope and joy and knowledge in this younger generation. I have an obligation to them. I've been writing since I was 3 years old. So the need to write stories has always been there. It's my gift. It's something sometimes it's my curse, but it's what I do, and it's how I can contribute. I grew up not having a lot of stories about girls like me. So I was watching things like Gidget and the Brady Bunch, and I would actually get a towel and put a headband on it so I could have long hair like Marsha. And, I was doing all these things that I didn't understand the word assimilate, but I was pulling as far away from my center, my culture. My parents were both born in the American South, even though I grew up in Michigan. So as you were saying about how you can speak at home and how you get to speak outside, I mean, at home, we was country as can be. Y'all better stop. Ain't gonna do this, ain't gonna do that. But You better not let my mama catch you talking like that out in the street. Don't be in the grocery store yelling to her about, we ain't got no milk. We're not going to have that. So I very much grew up with this idea that who I could be and who I was within my home was not acceptable to the rest of the world. And I had to put on this white face, in deference to blackface. And we had to do white face so that we could be more acceptable, so that we wouldn't be too much, because we were told we were too loud, so you go through all of that. So now I write to encourage people to be loud, to be too much, to fuse who you are in your home and in your heart with who you show to the world, and that's okay. So
That's beautiful. What I'm getting here is that one of the radical ways that writers are going to fight back now is to continue to write our authentic selves and encourage all of our young writers to do the same. And so, yeah, no, you don't have to clap yet. We're going to take some questions from, because this is my favorite part, getting questions. But since we are limited in time, we're going to ask our educator chaperones to choose one student to ask a question from each group. And if you could please send them down right here where the microphone is so they could ask.
come on, children, we need you. Young people, I'm sorry, you're not children at all. You are big people.
Yay, okay. We can start, yeah. There's a microphone right up there. You see? So as other people line up behind, what is your name?
Natalie.
Natalie. Please line up behind Natalie. Natalie, go ahead and ask your question.
So I'm Chinese. Well, I'm a quarter, but I just want to say, like, it meant a lot to me to read, like, about the Asian historical stuff because, like, there's not a lot of Chinese things out there. And I still remember reading The Downstairs Girl, which is based in China, and it just meant so much. So thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you, Natalie. Hi, what is your name?
Hi, I'm Rain. I'm from Justice High School in Virginia. My question addresses all of you. Provided that you're here, you are all very dedicated to improving that gap of non-diverse books within literature. But how do you balance the intersection of both working to include diversity in literature and not taking on the entire weight of the world? Because that is such a hard balance.
That is such a good question. Renee?
Did you say your name is Rain?
Yeah.
I love your name. It is not my responsibility to speak on behalf of my people or to try to be everything to everybody. I see my responsibility as being a good storyteller. And so I'm not even trying to, in my books, I'm not trying to change you or get you to think like me. I do want you to think as a young person. I want you to be asking questions of the character and, you know, all of those things. But really, I am a writer, and I really do come to the story wanting to make a good story for you. And that really is my responsibility as a writer. In my personal life, I vote and I advocate and I make phone calls and I do all those things. But when I'm thinking about my art and thinking about writing for you all, I want to make sure that the story is good. And so what that means to me is that the characters are nuanced, that I'm not creating stereotypical characters and that I'm making sure I'm telling a full story. And in that way, I feel like I'm pushing up against some of the things that we're all fighting for. But yeah, I don't carry that burden at all. That is a huge responsibility to think that I am responsible for speaking for my people, fixing all the things. I don't do that at all. I really just try to write a really strong, good story and let the characters speak for themselves and hopefully touch you.
Does anyone else want to handle this really difficult but excellent question?
Well, I was going to say that even the work of finding your authentic self is a job in and of itself. And as an illustrator, I do have a job of taking a manuscript, a story that someone else has written, and enhancing that through the visual aspect of it. But in my private work, I get to deal with me and who I am and what I'm trying to express in the world. So that's how it balances out for me. I love my studio time, but I also love working with authors and seeing if I can enhance and complement what they're doing. But that was a great question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll hop in as well. I think as someone who writes historical fiction, one of the challenges I face is how do I represent Korea's past as authentically as possible and as accurately as possible. And I think initially that was a huge stumbling block for me because as a diaspora Korean, I'm like, oh no, is my character too, like, is my book too feminist? Like back then it was a very heavily patriarchal kingdom. And later on I realized, you know what? Even if my book is influenced by things like feminism and my own life as a third culture kid, divided by growing up in different places around the world, I realized like that in itself is authentic. Because like, what is authenticity? Like, if it's authentic to me, then I think it's authentic. And I realized I'm putting too much burden on myself. And like you mentioned, that it's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to tell the story as authentically as possible, as a story that's from my heart, and that my responsibility is as a storyteller, not as a historian. Because as much as I could be respectful of history, it's still not my job to write a history textbook. And so I think that figuring that balance is something you don't get right away. It's a journey, and I think just embracing that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to learn. It comes with time, and it comes with just really dedicating the time to figuring out what that balance is for you.
And I'm going to say one thing, which is writers are always political. And any time period that we are in, right, we're going to get targeted because we're going to tell truths. And we're going to put them down, and they're going to last. And people will look back and go, well, what happened in this period of time? And it'll be our writings that shows them, right, a window into what was happening. And I think writing as authentically and as powerfully about your own experiences or the other experiences that you see reflected in your world is our job. You know, it doesn't have to come with a heavy burden, but it does come with our ability to tell the truth and to let people know what's happening in our world. Thank you so much for that question.
Thank you so much.
Hello. And if we have time for more questions, I'll definitely ask. Caroline will tell me, right?
Okay, my name is Mercedes. I am from Alexandria City High School. And my question is from Miss Walker. Okay, I am ready to read your book. I really like it, but I have a question. It's on my book, sorry. That drives you to share about your life, about your wishes, and what did inspire you to share about this information?
What inspired me to tell the story about my life?
Yeah.
You know, I am very private. I usually write fiction for that reason. But I love poetry, makes me honest. And when I was working on those poems, I wanted to talk directly to you and to all of the young people in here, and not through a character, but really just talk to you and share myself with you. And I wanted you to know that that you're worthy and that your story matters. And so for me to say that, I have to live that. So I was thinking, well, I got to do the brave thing and share my story and talk about how my family matters and my sister and my mom and everything that I've witnessed. So I wanted to share my story with you because so many times I go into classrooms all over the world and I ask young people to share their stories with me. I ask you to write a poem, but I wasn't writing mine and sharing it back with you. So I wanted to be in conversation with young people and just tell a little bit about who I am. Sometimes as adults, you meet us and we're here on stage with mics and we're doing all these big things, but we also were young and nervous and scared and afraid and had dreams and didn't know if we could make them. And some of us are still scared and afraid and not sure if we can. And I wanted to be in conversation with you about that, about the truth of me and not the fiction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Sydney. I come from Capital City.
Sydney, can you come up closer?
I come from Capital City Public Charter School. My question for honestly any of you is, how do you balance your writing with your personal life and your work and like family?
Okay, I'll give. Yeah, I'll volunteer since I probably have the least balance of anybody here. You know, my family has gotten used to me. You know, there's a progression. When I start out, you know, when I get the call that's saying that the publisher is going to buy the book, there's dancing. You know, we celebrate even if it's with sparkling apple juice or something. Yay! You know, we go to Olive Garden and you know celebrate the new book. So that's day 1. Day 30. I've written the first, you know, I'm a fast writer when I know where I'm going. So I could be, you know, a third of the way through the book by day 30. But then day 31 comes. And that's all I know about the book. That's all I know about anything. I don't recognize my children now. Day 60. Yeah, that's when the drinking starts. No, I'm just kidding, kids. I'm just kidding. But
Is there any crying involved?
Yeah, well, that's day 75, where I just realized I've promised these people this book. I was so excited about this book. I hate this book and everything about this book. I don't want to see it. I don't want to read it. I don't want it to exist. My family, thank goodness, have come to recognize the signs. So when I send my sister a text that says, I'm giving up on everything, I'm going to become an Acme truck driver, she knows what's up. She goes, oh, how far are you along in the book? What day is it? So all of my books, you know, like if my family was here, all of that thanks and accolades I was given earlier would be to my family. My daughter, I live with my daughter now. She picks up the extra chores around the house because the crazier I become with the story, the messier my space is. I'm just throwing down everything because I'm doing research. I've got 5 different books open on the table. I'm just a mess. So by the time it gets to the point where, you know, you're sending it to them for revisions, there's a lot of tears. There's just, you know, there's a lot of this. It'll be okay, mommy. It's probably not as bad as you think. And so that is how it goes in my house. I can't speak for nobody else, but it is quite a show, let me tell you.
Eden, what does your balance look like?
I don't have any balance. It is complete chaos the entire time. There is crawling under the desk and hiding. There is my husband knocking on my office door going, do I need to buy you some French fries? And I just say, yes, please. There is with every book, the fear that you won't get it right. That the big idea in your head is not going to be as big and great by the time you get it on the page. There's always that fear. And I'm sorry to say that that does not change throughout your career. But the thing that does change throughout your career is you get people saying, your book was amazing. I didn't realize it at the time, but I needed to read your book. And I've shared it with people. I've let my students read it. I've requested it at my library. And hearing people tell you that your book was important, that your book helped them get over something, or that your book is something that they will always have on their shelf because they want to go back to it. That helps you get through the moments of, I can't do this. I'm not sure that I can actually create this book and make it what I want it to be. And then you can have some French fries.
June, I want to hear the answer from everybody. So, June, what's your balance?
Also complete chaos. And I think I was actually querying for 10 years. So in order to get published, you need to send out like a resume to agents, and then agents kind of connect you to publishers. So I was querying for 10 years, and I think over those years, I realized my identity was becoming too wrapped up in what I could produce. And so I started to tell myself, if I can't get published or if I can't write a good book, I'm a failure, I'm a nobody. And so it got really toxic. And so I think from what I learned, over the years, I learned, I am not what I produce. Even if I produce like the most horrible book ever, that does not reflect on who I am, on my self-worth. So it's something I still struggle with. And so when I'm spiraling, I'll be sitting in front of the computer being like, I need to try harder, I need to try harder until I get it right. And it can be very chaotic and it consumes me. But I have 2 young kids, and a part of writing, I'm always writing on my phone as well. And so just this one day, I finally heard my daughter saying, "Amma," which means mom in Korean. "Amma, put down your phone." Like she wanted me to be present. And I think in that moment, it just really hit me, like my priority is the people around me. Like they are the people, who matter the most to me. And then it's storytelling and writing books. And so like I still get the balance wrong all the time. But I'm reminded of what my dad always tells me. If you want to write a good book, you need to leave your writing desk and live life. And so I'm not saying like I'm using my kids to write a good book, but I'm just reminding like part of writing good books is just living life. And sometimes just forgetting about your story and just living life. And so I am not getting the balance right now. I don't think I ever will, but it's always at the back of my mind. And it's something I hope, while you're young, you train that kind of muscle up to learn, no matter how hard you chase your dream, no matter how ambitious you might be, like it's so important to just like find a hobby and just learn to live life and remind yourself you are not defined by your failures and your achievements.
Eiko, as an illustrator, I'm so
would
interested.
say there's no balance. There's mountaintop and there's valley. And we live in between all the time. If any of you make collages, you know that it's already completely messy. And an author who's gone through what you all described then hands that off to me. And I have to go through the same process again. Illustrators have to do their own research because we're looking for different things. Like, what does a rifle look like in the 1800s versus the 1900s? It's subtle, but you want to be accurate. So there's a lot of books open on the table, the dining room table, we don't dine there. The coffee table, there's no coffee there. There's just scraps of paper and books and all of that kind of stuff. And I guess I've learned to not fight against that, but to sort of ride the wave. I do get to that moment in every book where I'm like, I can't do this. The first book that I did, the first 5 illustrations just flowed like water. It was as if an angel just left them on my desk. But the other 17 images, was struggle and all of that kind of stuff. So I think to look for a balance, like the Brady Bunch kind of balance, is not going to happen. We just learn to be good surfers, to ride the wave, and eventually you know you're going to get to that final destination. Nice. Thank you for that question, though.
Renee, you want to tackle it?
Sydney? I don't think of balance as being like I'm equally handling it all. I think of being a cook and having something simmering in the back, just kind of, marinating a little bit back there. And then up front, I'm really focusing on what needs to cook. And in that way, I am juggling a lot, but there are certainly things that are getting more of my attention than other things. And so sometimes I can be a better friend because I am not traveling and I'm home and I can see people face to face. And my writing is getting a lot of attention, or I am out traveling, doing events, and so maybe something else is not getting the attention, but it's still there. I'm still texting them. I'm still calling to say, I love you. I'm thinking of you. So just trying to make sure I'm holding all the things, but there are some things that are not quite balanced, but I am trying to take care of them all. As you all are doing homework and chores at home and dreaming and want to play and want to do the things that you love to do, I think it's important to just be honest with yourself and say, I'm tired, or this is a lot, or this is hard. And when I can admit to my friends and my family and to myself, wow, I'm doing a lot, or this feels heavy. Just saying it out loud and admitting that helps me prioritize, well, then what do I need to work on and how can I do the things that I want to do? So I don't think of it as balancing. My practical thing is to-do list. And I just prioritize. If I don't write it down, it's probably not going to get done. And I color code things, and that just helps me. If I have too much red on my calendar, that means I don't have enough play and rest. If I see a lot of blue, that means I need to get to work. So I really look at my calendar for the month and think, where are my breaks? Where am I taking care of myself? And where am I putting in the work?
And where are my donuts? That's usually...
And French fries. I'm also an advocate for French fries, too.
Thank you so much for the great question. Come on down. I realized that 13 Krispy Kreme donuts is my limit when I have a crying bag. 13, yes. I know that number too well now. Hi.
Hello, my name is Sam. I come from Montgomery Blair High School, and I was wondering, what is the biggest piece of advice you would give your younger self or someone else in your shoes?
Such a great question. Sherry, are you ready?
My turn again already.
Day 75.
Yeah, day 75. No, I would have to say that I was not kind to my younger self. My younger self, when I was in 7th grade, I remember asking my mom to buy me a coat that was a particular color, and she didn't know why. She got it, a jacket zipper thing. And the reason was because it was the same color as the lockers. And I wanted to be able to float invisibly through the hallway because I was sure that everything about me was wrong. I went to an all-black high school, middle school and high school, predominantly black. I was too light-skinned. I talked funny. Every arrow that could be flung, it stuck. And unfortunately, I believed it and treated myself accordingly. Just recently, when I got the word about this award, I was talking, a few weeks later, I was talking with my daughter, and I said to her, this is the happiest time of my career. I'm actually proud of myself because when I think of that little girl in the middle school dressing up to look like the locker, I had already been writing for years by that point, stuff that nobody saw. Every school notebook had a book in the back that I was working on. I was going to write the next Nancy Drew. I wanted to write Black mysteries for kids. I still do. I haven't done it yet, but I still do. If I could talk to that girl, I would just tell her, be kinder to yourself, love yourself, and keep going, because you are going to get there, but only you can get you there. You can't wish it. You can't beg it. You can't steal it. If you want to get from there to here, you got to work it. And you got to keep on working it, even when everybody is telling you the work is not where it's supposed to be. And I think if I had just had more faith in that and more faith in me when I was younger, my life would have been a lot easier in those years before I realized what my self-thought negativity was doing to me. So I would try to help my younger me not do that.
I am the only child of a very extrovert mom. And I am an introvert. And the hardest part for me growing up was wanting to hide. I wanted to hide all of the time. My mom couldn't understand why, because she was this very big personality. When she went to high school, she was voted most dramatic. She can still recite her lines from Antigone. And that was so difficult for me growing up, because I wanted to hide in a corner and read a book and do not perceive me. I am not here. And she couldn't understand that, because that wasn't her experience. And I didn't have the language at the time. I don't think I was raised at the time to push back on that and say, I get it, Mom, but that's not me. This is me. And it's fine that we're different. And it's fine that I want to embrace my quiet time, that I feel more comfortable reading my books, writing my stories, listening to music by myself. I don't mind being on my own sometimes, as opposed to the large groups of people that made her feel comfortable. So looking back on some of my younger times where I would go to the mall and every third step I took was somebody shouting my mother's name and running over to talk to her, and me going and hiding behind a rack of clothes or something so that they wouldn't see me. I would say that my advice to my younger self is, it's okay to tell people what makes you comfortable. And it's okay to have what makes you comfortable and what you like and what you enjoy be different than other people's enjoyment and what they like. And I always say when I'm interviewed and asked questions about understanding others, I push back on the word understanding. And sometimes it's about accepting others as they are and not necessarily understanding why they are the way they are. So my advice would just be to accept myself a little bit more and not apologize or try to be something I'm not.
June?
So growing up, I was the shy, super nice doormat. I said yes to everything. I never shared my opinion because I didn't like confrontation. Yeah, so I was shy, I was quiet. I was also from a immigrant family, so we were low income. So all my clothes always looked different from my friends because I got it from a secondhand store. So I grew up feeling very much like an outsider. And then later when I moved to Korea, I was in a Korean public school. I didn't know the language, so all my grades like plummeted. I had a multiple choice exam and I got 0. And my teacher was so shocked. She was like, how do you get 0 in a multiple choice exam? So I remember going through my journal as a high schooler, and I remember seeing a line where I was just like, I feel so stupid. And I would tell the June of that time that me being quiet, shy, feeling like an outsider, it ended up becoming my greatest strength because it shaped me to be the writer I am today. Because I found safety in journaling, and journaling is what really created in me this love of writing and feeling like books were my friends. And so, yeah, like I would tell June, and I would tell the Junes out there who are shy, who feel like they don't really belong, like one day that could end up being your strength.
So I feel that there's a through line here. I can relate to what each one of you said. I am also an only child. And when my father passed away when I was 8 years old, it dramatically changed my life, and I became very introverted, very quiet. And at that time, my mother became the sole breadwinner. So I was always in other people's houses. Other people had to help take care of me, so I always felt like a stranger. And I was so quiet that my cousin can relate to this. I hated mayonnaise, but I didn't even have the self-confidence to tell someone I don't like mayonnaise. And so when they said mayonnaise, I said, okay. And I ended up eating it and getting sick. So what I would say to my younger self is take heart, learn to speak your truth in love. And even if it takes you an hour to figure out what that sentence is, to speak about who you really are, take the time, because you will find the words. It took me years to find the words, but if I could have saved my younger self some time by saying it's okay to say you don't like mayonnaise, that's what I would say to my younger self.
So I would tell myself to give yourself grace. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to try something and realize, oh, I don't like this. It's okay to not ask for what you want and learn that you can ask for it the next time. I was very hard on myself. I'm the youngest of 5. I'm not an only child. And my siblings, they were so smart and they did so well in school. And so everywhere that they went, I was the last one. And everyone was like, oh, here comes a Watson. What's gonna end? That was very intimidating for me. So I would try things and sometimes fail at them. And sometimes not, but just was hard on myself because of this very high expectation that others were putting on me. So I would tell Renee, little Renee, to give yourself grace and also have an expectation for yourself. It doesn't have to be what others expect of you. What do you expect of yourself? How do you want to show up in the world and be who you want to be in this world? And so that's what I would tell her. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, what's your name?
I am Zion Cobbs. I'm from Jefferson Middle School. My question is like for all of y'all, but only one of you can like answer if that's okay. Like, what was your like favorite book to write? Like,
What was our one of our favorite books to write?
Yeah.
But you only want one of us to answer?
No, y'all can all answer if y'all want. Yeah.
All right, Renee. I'm just going to say the title, Piecing Me Together. What's my favorite to write?
What was your favorite?
I'm working on a couple, but I would say my book with my cousin Trisha Elon Walker, Dream Street, which is about our neighborhood growing up in Roxbury.
I would say The Red Palace, because it made me realize I actually really like writing romance.
I would say Root Magic because I got the opportunity to include some of the stories from my family members whose stories would have gone unheard without that book being published.
I guess if I'm going to choose something other than Shark Teeth, because that really that process, even with the whole falling apart thing, it worked out really well. But I think the book that I might be proudest of the writing is called The Sweetest Sound, and the reason is because it's about a young girl who hasn't found her voice, and but she is in a youth gospel choir, and she wants to move ahead. And so because it had all this music running through it, there's a lot of onomatopoeia in it, and just a lot of crafting of the language. It's the only book I've written where I really wanted each chapter to sound like a song, to feel musical. And it was a great accomplishment after it was published when I would have media specialists come up to me and acknowledge or just say to me, you know, that book was just so lovely. It was like reading a song, you know, it just, the language was very musical. And I worked hard to make it that way so that it would fit in with the theme of the book. So I have to say I was very proud of that.
So my last book that came out last September, anyway, On the Block. It's the anthology for WNDB. I worked with amazing authors, and I guess we could call it an episodic novel. It's an interrelated novel. It's all these short stories that are connected together because they all exist in a building, which was Danielle Clayton's idea. And when you work with brilliant authors like Erin Entrada Kelly and Adam Gidwitz and Min Lay and so many more amazing authors who write great stories, and then you get to kind of work with them and then kind of piece those stories together so that it reads almost like a full novel. That's a wonderful experience. It was like a group project, but where everybody did a great job and everybody pulled their weight, right? So it ended up being a wonderful experience. And I think it's a great book. Please get it. All proceeds, all royalties go back to WNDB to support our program. So thank you so much. Thank you. We're done? So we are done right now. Thank you so much for coming to the Walter Awards this year. This has been a really inspiring morning. It has been like wonderful listening to all of our award winners. Many thanks to our 2025 winners honorees, our Walter Award co-directors, the judging committee, the DC Public Library. We also thank our sponsors, Scholastic and BookBub. The Walter Awards is now concluded, but you're welcome to stay to purchase books and get them signed by these lovely authors. Thank you.